Welcome to another episode of Stoke Meter, and today I have an old friend with me today, Owen Ala. I have known Owen for, good grief, we're over 20 years now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Holy moly, that just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It goes way too quick, and I'll tell you what, it was really cool to see a story that Owen posted, and it's a series about how he became an orthopedic surgeon. And as you can see, he actually just got out of if you're watching on video, he just got out of the operating room. So thanks for making that time.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks for having me on here, and it's a pleasure to be able to talk about it and be on the podcast. I didn't realize you were doing this, and it's pretty awesome, man.
It's pretty fun, especially because you get to hear so many good stories. And in particular, I mean, when I knew you in New York City, so just as the background, Owen started his med school at Cornell Medical in New York City, and that's how we got to meet each other. It was a time that I was working down on Wall Street back in the day and got to know he and his wife. And back then, a small little baby child who is a gigantic kid now. But I looked at medical students as they were part crazy and they put in so many hours, and I thought they were always they came from a storied background. But when Owen posted something on Facebook, oh, this is probably about a month back now, about the struggles of becoming into the medical program, and wondering if you wouldn't mind giving a background, because I know there's so many things that I didn't know that inspired me so much to hear of the struggle that you went through in order to become where you are right now. And well, heck, even as recently as a few minutes ago, helping people on a day-to-day basis. So,
Yeah, I wrote that because in some way I kind of needed to process it. I've been wanting to just write it down for myself. I had no intentions of posting it, but once I started writing it, I was like, what, I'm just gonna post this. It's just, I felt kind of even weird doing it, but I thought, maybe somebody. I thought there'd be like a couple people want to read it, and I was kind of surprised how many people read it. Like, because it was kind of long. I did my first one. I posted two different posts, and the first one didn't even have a picture on it, and it was kind of long. It was like a book chapter.
but it was an awesome book chapter, and it was mesmerizing. Matter of fact, my wife came in and said, "Have you seen this post by Owen?" And I go, "No." And when I read it, I was completely blown away because I know your brother Arrow, and I know he is one of the most capable engineers I've ever seen over at Raytheon, and making all these missile systems and so on and so forth. And I remember you speaking about him before we moved to Tucson when I took a job there. And I thought, well, you're becoming a doctor, man. And I had no idea you had dyslexia. I had no idea that you went through all those challenges, people not having many high expectations of what you were doing, and even maybe set the target a little bit lower. It was just amazing to see that you had gone through that, because I've always seen you as this great success, but I didn't know how tough it was.
Yeah, getting into medical school was, it's hard to describe what an absolute struggle it was.
Yeah.
And maybe it could have been said that maybe I should have went into something else, but it wasn't so much of a struggle. But for whatever reason, at a really young age, I mean, in high school, I just knew I wanted to be a surgeon. And there's a couple reasons for that, but I was just dead set on doing it. But there's some massive struggles. I mean, one of them was, I wasn't that great of a student in high school. Even before that, I was worse. I mean, so in grade school, I was always put in, I call it the stupid classes, because I could barely read.
Yeah.
I was such a poor reader. They put me in all the lowest reading groups, which means when I was going through elementary school, it meant that you're kind of put off in the corner with the kids that didn't want to read or didn't know how to read. And you just kind of sat there and you're just out of the way and nobody really paid attention to you, which is like not what I needed. But I kind of went through school, and luckily I was pretty good in math. which put me into some higher math classes, which really saved my entire education. It's interesting. And I've actually kind of gotten passionate about education because of that, as far as like early on education and not tracking kids at an early age. Because too many education systems or school districts want to put younger kids in kind of gifted programs, but
Yeah.
it's really hard to tell at that age, almost impossible to tell at that age. And so what they found is, what the research has found, is trying to track people into different programs or different skill levels as late as possible, even into high school ages, is more preferable. I remember, so in high school, I was I realized that I was really poor at reading, and I also realized I was not prepared to go to college.
Right.
Because it requires a lot of reading, a lot of
Yeah.
just a lot of reading, and I just was not prepared. And so I told the AP English teacher that I wanted to be in her class, and she told me no.
She actually told you no.
She told me no. She's like, "You're not, no, you can't do it." Because I'd never been in an AP class in my entire high school career, and I was a senior in high school. Luckily, she was one of the coaches on the cross country running team, and I was a big cross country runner. I also played hockey, but so I convinced her. I was kind of persistent. I was like, "No, no, I need to be in your class. I
Wow.
absolutely need to." And I remember getting in that class, my first AP class, and I kind of looked around. I was like, "Oh, this is where all the smart kids are."
Right.
And in my mind, maybe it's because I was like had an inflated view of like myself, but I always thought I was really smart. But I was always in like these other classes with all these kids that were goofing off the whole time.
Sure.
Because if
Sure.
you're not in these classes with the AP kids, a lot of times you're in a class where kids just goof off. They don't take it
Sure.
seriously. And so I got in this class, this AP class, not prepared for it. And I remember the first week of that class, they asked us to read out loud a book. And I was just like going, "Oh crap." I was like a deer in the headlights. And
Sure.
so everybody's reading their paragraph out loud. It comes to me, and I start reading, and I'm not kidding you. The entire class starts laughing, hysterically
Oh
laughing their
man.
heads off, like how bad it was.
Oh my. Oh
I
my.
and there's nothing I could do. I mean, I was reading words that weren't there and mispronouncing pretty basic words. And
Right.
there's nothing. I could just sit there in total embarrassment, just going, "Oh my gosh, what did I get myself into?"
Well, looking back at, well, not looking back, I wasn't there, but as you tell the story, how did you stay so focused? Because you knew you wanted to be a surgeon, and it's harsh. I mean, high school, grade school, it was harsh, and when you get made
Yeah.
fun of, it's relentless. And to stay focused on something like that, how did you stay focused?
I mean, because I stayed focused on it for a decade
Yeah, yeah,
when there was no real external motivation. Nobody was helping me through it. And for a long time, I just kept it inside. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want to tell anybody I wanted to become a doctor, because from a background of, if I would have told a counselor that, they would have steered me in a totally different direction.
it just sounds like it was innate. You absolutely knew you had to go
I
for it.
don't know. Maybe it was. And here's part of it though, is part of it was pretty significant financial insecurity that
Sure.
really had something to do with it.
Right.
Because I grew up on a homestead in Alaska,
Right.
and my grandparents moved to Alaska in the 1940s, and I grew up on this homestead. And I mean, we're pretty poor, but we had 7 kids in our family. I was the second to youngest, and right when I got into high school, my dad's business kind of went under, and it was just me and my little brother left at home. All the older kids are kind of gone, and
Right.
so my dad basically had to go off to like the North Slope and other areas away from home for months at a time, and we had to move to a different part of our farm, and we literally didn't have a house.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that kind of leaves an impression on you of you got to figure out stuff, because
Yeah.
it's not there's no safety net for me,
Sure.
zero. And that was very clear from very young age. And so then it was me and my brother going through high school, and I literally found a shack on our homestead that I could move to the part of the farm that we moved to, and it had no heat source. I literally had a space heater for the first winter.
Oh man.
And I ran an extension cord out to the shack, and the shack was like 14 feet by 16 feet, and there's no running water in it. I built a deck out front of it before the winter, and I would go to the edge of the deck and pee into the snow all winter. And I would like have one spot that I peed in.
My
And then when
goodness.
my friends came over, I'd cover it up with snow so it didn't look so horrible.
I had no idea. And that's what makes the story so compelling because despite all those circumstances and despite all the opposition, you kept on going. But the challenges didn't stop. They continued, right? You got into college and matter of fact, it sounded like you took some time off from college and then went back and then you had these crazy professors that said, nope, you're going to be at a C minus level
Oh
based on your
yeah.
ACT. I mean, what
Yeah, so
was that like?
I took the ACT and I scored so bad in it because neither of my parents went to college. My dad's an electrician. My dad was awesome. My dad's a smart guy. Like he's an electrician, but neither went to college. They didn't really have any advice or there's no preparation for the ACT. And I was dyslexic. And so just reading the questions was slow for me. I scored poorly on it. So I went to a junior college and I decided I'm going to go to this junior college and I need to get straight A's. And I put that as a goal in my mind. I was like, I have to get straight A's. In my mind, I did that because I said, if I'm going to make it all the way to medical school, the classes are just going to get harder and harder. You know,
Right.
if I struggle through that first semester and get some B's, maybe an A and a C, how am I going to keep doing this? Because they're just going to get harder and harder. And so in my mind, I was like, I have to get straight A's or I can't do this. And I
Yeah.
put that as a test. And literally my first day in college, undergraduate, I sit in my chemistry class. I took inorganic chemistry, which is your first semester
It's
chemistry class,
brutal.
but very different, brutal class.
Brutal,
And I
brutal.
sit down, there's 85 other students there, and I'm kind of intimidated. I'm looking around going, oh my gosh, I'm not in Soldotna, Alaska anymore. And the professor puts out on the board, he says that basically what you're going to get out of the class is the preparation you put before you got to college is basically going to determine what you're going to get out of this class. And he put science ACT scores on one column and then basically grades correlating to grades in his class. And he said, if you score high on the science ACT portion of the ACT,
Right.
then you're going to do really well in this class. If you scored really low, you're probably not going to do well in this class. And my correlating score for my ACT was a C minus in his class. That was what I was predicted to get in the class. And again, I just didn't know if I had this over inflated like self-worth of myself. I was like, oh, I can beat that. I got this. I played hockey and I was pretty competitive at it. And I ran track and cross country. I tried to get all these goals and I was somewhat successful and I told myself, this is my sport and this is my job. Okay. And there
Mm.
was one thing I learned working on the homestead, working on the farm, it was out of work. And both my
Yeah.
parents are the hardest workers I've ever known in my life. They
Yeah.
are the hardest workers. They are literally the salt of the earth, some of the most amazing people in the world, the most giving people in the world, and the hardest freaking workers you ever seen. They don't stop. And my dad turns 80 this year and he's still working. They still run the farm. He's still working as an electrician. It's just impressive. So I thought I got in this class like I'm gonna work my butt off. So I started studying and reading, prepare. I was ready to go. First test, took it. I was like, I got this. Got the grade back. Literally a C minus. I was shocked. I was like, oh
Oh,
wow, that was a gut punch.
oh
And a
my
big
goodness.
reality check. I was like, this is gonna be harder than I thought.
Yeah.
A lot harder than I thought.
Well, how did you recover from that? Just from a psychological point of view, or go, well, maybe the teacher knows something I don't because he was right on with that ACT correlation. And
Yeah, I thought
it's
that for a second, but then I had to get that on my mind. For some reason I've always been kind of relentless for positive thinking.
yes,
And all
yes,
those thoughts started coming into my mind. I was like, oh, maybe I can't do this. And I was like, immediately I tell myself, no, I have to stay positive. I have to stay focused. So I was like, what can I do?
right,
And then I started to readjust. Okay, I gotta focus on everything possible I can do.
right.
And so I spent I literally started studying from 10 hours a day to 14 hours a day, every second I could study. I was like, I mean, it's do or die because the semester's not that long, and
Right.
I got to make this happen. I mean, and so I read the book chapters 2 or 3 times. I went to every teaching assistant. every session I would go to the professor's time. I'd go ask him questions, everything I could do. Got to the second test
Right.
and I literally got a C plus. And that's with the curve. Like that's not that's with the curve.
Right, right,
And I'm
right.
just like, oh crap. And that's when I was just really hit me. I was just like, maybe I can't do this.
Right,
And I
right.
was like almost in tears because I'm paying every cent of this
Yep.
college. I'm paying myself. I came up with every dime myself. I mean, I
Wow.
mowed lawns all summer long.
Right.
I did landscaping, and I was like, my parents didn't pay a dime for my college. My parents had no idea what classes I was taking.
Oh,
They had no idea how I even showed up at college.
wow.
You know what
Wow.
I'm saying? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to say they're oblivious to this, but they had no idea.
Sure, sure,
You know,
sure.
they're just they're just working away. I mean, there's only so much they could do.
Right.
And so I'm on my own
Wow.
and I have no safety net. I'm just thinking back. I have a 2 room shack in Alaska with no running water that I can go back to, which
Yeah.
is literally nothing.
Right.
Or I gotta figure this out.
Right.
I
Right.
literally have to figure this out. And I'm just like, I was sitting in the library and I'm just like closing my eyes, just trying to just concentrate. What else can I do?
Right.
And like honestly, just this overwhelming feeling came. I was like, I had no idea, no idea.
Right.
And so I literally just started praying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Hmm.
literally just started praying. There's nothing else I could do. I
Sure.
was already studying every second I could do.
Right.
And it's hard for me to talk about because
Yeah.
I don't really share those uh, I don't really share those kind of personal things very much,
Sure.
and for some reason, easier to write them down to even talk about them. But
Right.
it was it was really spiritual. I just started praying. I said, "Heavenly Father, I literally can't do this alone, and
Right.
I need your help because I feel like this is what for some reason I just feel like this is what I was born to do.
Yeah.
I need to become a surgeon. I just feel like all the little things I did growing up on the farm, they just prepared me to be a surgeon. I feel like I was really good working with my hands. It was just the reading was really difficult.
Right.
And
Right.
I just said, and then I remembered a scripture that, you know, I'd memorized in high school. And it was a scripture from the New Testament. It said,
Right.
um, and the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, and the Father will send in my name. He will teach you all things and bring all things to your remembrance. And you know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the scripture goes on from there, but I just thought I need, for some reason, I need the Spirit to be with me to study. I was
Yeah.
like, maybe that could help.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I can't do any worse. I'm already not achieving what I want to do,
Right. Right.
you know, and there's no second chance here. If I can't make it happen this semester, there's you know, I'm the, it's not going to happen.
Going under.
It's not
Sure.
going to happen. I have to go a different direction. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen because there's nobody paying for me. There's nobody's going to pay for tutors for me.
Yeah.
There's no safety net. So I just prayed and said, I need to study with the Spirit. And the, the, the only inspiration that came to me was read the scriptures and pray before you study.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's the only thing that came to me. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I was just like, this isn't helping much.
It seems so, right? It does seem so. And it,
Just like, I'm literally about to cry. I'm
right.
like, all I can come up with is read the scriptures and pray before I study. And I'm just
Right.
like,
Right.
but I mean, that's all I had to go on. So I did it. And I set a clock for, you know, 20, 30 minutes and I read, and I'd say prayer. I'd try and like meditate a little bit, kind of
Right.
focus, close my eyes and try and just kind of get in a calm state. And then I would read and I'd study. And I'd just like go over chemistry and then all my other classes. You know, I was taking a English class and I was taking a full load
Right.
and I just kept doing that and just making a habit out of that and just going away and just keep plugging away. And by this point, it's like near half the semester's done, you know, it's
Right.
like I got to pick this up. And it came time for midterms and I'm a little down, you know, I'm kind of depressed and I take the midterm not really depressed, but I'm just like kind of verging on discouraged,
Right.
and I take the midterm and it's tough, and I get the results back, and I got a or a B plus,
Oh, sweet.
and I'm like, okay, it's not an A, but it's improvement, it's
Right.
legit improvement. And I was like, this, I mean, it's not a C.
Right. Right.
Let's keep on doing what we're doing. At
Right.
least it's helping.
That's awesome. And as you're saying this, I remember someone told me that God will help you after have done everything you can do. And then the other is the importance of focusing on you. And I think part of that was now that you got so inundated with all of the scholastic work, it's so easy to forget self. I've seen it in corporations too, people just burning the clock and and then when they take time for themselves, the productivity. But it's so amazing that you had it was a process of self-discovery and might have thought it was kooky at first, but it's amazing to see your hard work, but then also the importance of taking time for yourself. That really struck a chord because it's so easy to get lost in the urgency of things, right?
It is. I mean, uh, yeah, it is. Uh,
So
but
after that though, what started to transpire after that B plus? That had to be the impetus for some pretty cool things.
yeah, I started it's an interesting thing started happening. I like to say I started maturing a little bit, and I was always kind of mature kid as far as like my what I wanted to do and my work ethic, but I started maturing maybe spiritually a little bit,
Mm,
and um, I don't know, but yeah, I kept all that up,
hmm
for
hmm
the rest of the semester, and you know, there's a certain amount of burnout that could happen, and I was aware of that, and so I would do things to prevent burnout, and I would still hang out with some friends, but it was very much a lonely semester, even though luckily I was going to college with one of my best friends I grew up with. He was awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he
That's
was my
great.
roommate, which
Right,
can be a distraction, but it wasn't.
right.
And what it meant was, you know, the few minutes that I had where I wasn't studying, he was right there and we were hanging out, and it was kind of a rejuvenating effect.
That's awesome. Everyone needs that.
Yeah, you need
Absolutely.
that, and you know, I also studied on how to study because I wanted to be more effective in how I studied. And
Mhm.
there's effective ways to study and there's ineffective ways to study.
Sure.
And I don't want to
Absolutely.
waste my time, and saying that I put in so much time studying, it's like you could be spinning your wheels and working your butt off and not making any progress. I didn't want to do that.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
tried to be as effective as possible, but I kept it up, and at the end of the semester, it was uh, it was kind of an emotional time because
Right.
I was like, I didn't know if I could do this. And
Sure.
I so much wanted this goal. I so much wanted to believe that I could achieve something great in my life.
Right.
And, at this point, I'm a 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid that has achieved nothing and has nothing to my name, nothing. And I don't even have an education. I'm barely reading 100 words a minute. And so I get to the end of the semester and I got, you know, I got my grades in all my classes except for chemistry. And, I got A's in all those classes and I was
Oh
pretty
man.
excited about that. I was just like, that's a big achievement. But the chemistry grade was, I hadn't got that grade back. And I remember the semester had ended, and it's kind of I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of a nostalgic time with the end of the semester. It's
Right.
Christmas time. Everybody's
Yeah.
leaving, and I had a couple days where I was kind of lonely on campus because everyone's left and I'm still waiting for my flight home to Alaska. And so I
Right.
had a couple of days to myself, and I was like, I'm gonna go check on. I kind of worked myself up to go to my chemistry professor's class or to his office to go ask him. I was like, hey, do you have these? scores done yet. I just wanted to see. I was just, did I get an A in that class? And my grades were getting better in those tests. And I remember walking in the class. I was almost shaking. I was so nervous because
Right.
I felt like my entire future was on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh
maybe
yeah.
that's probably too much to put on a young kid when I'm looking back at it, but that's what I was putting on myself. I was like, my entire
Wow.
future's on the line.
Right.
I didn't know what I was gonna do if I didn't get this A in the class. And looking back at it now, I'm like, if I would have got an A minus, I would have been fine. I could have kept on going. But my mind is like, had to get an A
Hey, right.
just to prove to myself I could do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, I just had the weight of the world on my shoulders walking into this room. And I asked my professors, hey, you have this, by any chance, do you have the grades calculated, the final grades? And he goes, yeah, well, I just got done right now, just calculating them all. And I said, do you mind if, kind of find out what my grade was? And he opened up his grading book. And I remember looking, he just put it on his desk there. And I remember looking down at it, and my name's right at the top of the
Yeah,
list
with
because
the
my
A, with the Ala,
last
yeah.
name Ala, it's right at the top, right? And I looked down, and it was clearly said an A minus. And I was just like, my heart just sunk. I was just like, and because all my grades were, all those test grades were calculated with the curve, and I'm
Right,
just like,
right.
so close. And he starts looking down the list, and I kind of start doing the same too. I was like, there aren't many A's in there. And I'm not kidding you. There was, for a class of 85 students, there was, I think, two people that got an A in the class.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow.
And he looks at me and goes, "This is your lucky day." He's like, with the curve, you're bumped up to an A. And I was just shocked. I was just, it's just one of those things. I was just like, almost to this day, I want to start crying. It's crazy how much that meant, because
Yeah.
how freaking hard I'd worked for that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
14-hour days, man. Good grief.
yeah, I mean, coming from the farm in rural Alaska,
Yeah.
and I was starting preparing for that semester in my senior year of high school. I started reading books to like try and get my reading, better,
Right.
and doing stuff outside of now AP English class. I got a C in that class. My high
Wow.
school, I got a
Yeah.
C in that class. I was probably lucky to get a C in that class. And I got in my first semester, I took hard classes my first semester. I literally just got straight A's.
Wow, that blows my mind, man. And well, it does to an extent, but at the same time, looking at how hard you work and just the ability to focus and the ability to care, and that I just wow, you overcame some tremendous odds, and it lends itself to the rest of your story. I mean, just I mean, that was your first year, right? That was your
First semester,
yeah,
that was it. First
exactly.
semester.
Yeah. Well, then,
you know, but you know what? An interesting thing that happened my first semester. Um, I met a girl my first semester.
oh,
Luckily, she wasn't in the same college because I probably wouldn't have got straight A's if she was in college. Luckily, she wasn't a distraction.
right,
But I met this girl for just a brief, a brief like day,
right.
and she went down to the junior college I was at because her sister was there,
Uh,
and she was from Alaska. And her sister said, "You got to come to visit me in college because this Owen guy from Soldotna's here." She told her sister, and her sister says, "No way." And because she had asked this Owen guy from Soldotna when she was a freshman in high school to dance at a youth dance. And one dance, we talked during that one dance.
right.
I totally forgot her name.
Oh no.
We danced. And from then on, she would compare every single guy to this Owen guy she danced with. This one dance. when she was a freshman in high school. Now she's a senior, and her sister, who is going to college, randomly found this Owen guy from Soldotna, who's matched up with the exact age that her sister named Camille. And so she came down. They hooked us up on a date through mutual Alaskan friends. And we
Right.
went on a date. Oh my gosh, she was hot.
I love it. I love it. And she is a cute kid. There is well not a kid anymore, but
Yeah, and but luckily she wasn't visiting her sister for very long, so she went back to Alaska her senior year of high school. So luckily I was focused, you know.
yeah, yeah.
But I flew home from college,
Right.
and oh my gosh, that's all Camille and I want to do is see each other.
Oh
And
man.
and I had decided that I was gonna serve a tier mission for our church after that, and
Yeah.
so I wasn't going back to college for the next semester, the spring
Right.
semester. I
Right.
was planning on going on a mission, and then after that mission, going back to college.
Right.
And I'd kind of achieved my goal of like I know I can do this medical thing, or at least I really think I can.
Right.
And then Camille and I just like fell in love.
Right. Right. Absolutely. We were a perfect couple, by the way. So
But so I left on a mission, and Camille and I rode each other for 2 years, and I came back, and I was planning on transferring to the college that she had initially was going to go to,
right.
and so was my best friend that I went to college
Oh
with.
no way. That's
And then
great.
in the middle of while I was on mission, Camille decides to go to a whole different school.
Oh my goodness. Oh
And
my
because
goodness.
she decided she wanted to get a master's degree in accounting, and she wanted to go get into a really good accounting program. And
Right.
so I randomly got a letter from her saying, "Oh, I'm transferring to this other school," and I was like, "Oh no, I got I got to get my application in." And so I immediately get my application in. I break it to my buddy. I said, "Hey, I'm not going to the school we've both been planning to go to for the last couple of years," because he went on, was on a mission too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I go, "I'm going to this other school," and he goes, "Well, I guess I'll do the same thing." So he puts it as the application. We both go to the school Camille's going to.
That's awesome. That is awesome. My goodness. And that's how it all started then, right there, man.
It's how it all started, And so I started up college again, and really, it's I started up college again in the fall semester, and
Yeah.
in a way, it's kind of it's it's basically like a start over in college. My
Yeah.
first, because basically I got 4 years to go. I completed one semester of college. I got really good grades, but based on those grades, I could transfer to this better college, and
Yeah.
now it's like you're really starting fresh,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Yep.
And so, um, and yeah, the interesting thing is Camille and I got married really young,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
and
yeah.
I still had nothing. I mean, I remember I bought her a wedding ring. I was
Right.
like, and it was 80% of my net worth.
Oh, oh
It wasn't much. It was like a $2,000 ring. And
man.
now 26 years later, we're still married,
Right.
and she wears that same ring. I mean, she can afford any ring she wants right
Right,
now,
right,
and she still
exactly.
wears that same ring. I think it's so cool.
That is way cool, and it shows the kind of character that she is, man. She is a stalwart, man. There's no doubt
Yeah,
about that. No doubt.
but the next thing that happened though is that MCAT test.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I started realizing I got to pass the MCAT to get into medical school, and
Yeah.
not just pass it. There's not really a pass. There's just a score,
Right.
and you got to score well to get into medical school. You got
Exactly.
to
Right.
score really well.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I immediately started studying for it 3 years in advance.
Wow.
I thought it was 2 years in advance.
Right. Right.
That was my plan. So I was, and I started taking a prep class that first, semester back at college, and every Saturday I was studying for that MCAT. And to take one practice test takes between 6 and 7 hours
Oh
just to
my
take the
gosh.
test, and then you got to
Wow.
correct it and go over all your missed problems. And so I didn't have a real college experience.
Yeah,
Did not.
sure,
I
sure.
was, it was full bore, total grind,
Right,
just total work. You
right,
know, I had a lot of friends who they were going off and camping every weekend and having fun. That was not my college experience.
right.
It was
Sure.
work. It was I got to get good grades in these classes and I got to stay for the MCAT. And
Right.
you would not believe how bad I was at the MCAT.
Really?
You know, I
Man.
figured out ways to compensate for dyslexia.
Uh-huh.
I was never tested in high school, but it's very clear I had
Right.
dyslexia. I knew
Right.
it. My mom was very, very dyslexic, and that's kind of
Mm,
why she didn't go anywhere in schooling.
sure.
And I figured out ways to compensate for it.
Uh-huh.
And and you know, I could figure out ways of how I took tests and how I went over problems so I wouldn't mix things up.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I mean, with all the education I've had,
Yeah.
to this day, I cannot tell the difference between a B and a D. I
Really?
am not kidding you. I know what a B and a D is. I know what
Right,
it is.
right, right, right,
I know what it is, right?
right.
And then I'll go to write it and I'll literally pause.
Really?
A lowercase B or D.
Yeah, yeah,
Uppercase, no problem.
yeah.
Lowercase B and a D,
Yeah.
I literally have to do this every time I do it. Because this spells
Wow.
bed. It looks like a bed, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the B, that's the D when you're looking at it. I literally have to go this. Oh, the B goes this way. Okay. I write it down. I'm just like, holy crap, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I should know how to spell a B and a D. I'm just like, oh, it's so frustrating. And so I did a lot of things to compensate for it.
Sure.
And I started getting good at compensating and I continued to do very well. I started getting, very good grades.
Right.
But the MCAT was a timed test.
Oh, man.
And
Yeah.
that's where dyslexia really rears its ugly head
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
when you can't go slowly when you read and
Right.
you can't take your time.
Oh,
And I'm not kidding. I started taking those in the verbal reasoning. It was horrible for me. I
right.
took my first verbal reasoning practice test. I
Right.
scored in the 30th percentile.
Oh, man.
I mean,
Oh,
there's people that are English as their second language that score better than I did.
oh, oh no.
It's crazy,
Right.
and and so I had to work at it, and I worked nonstop at that test for 2 years straight. And even the summer before I took the test,
Right.
because they only offered it in April and August when I did it. They only offered it twice a
Oh,
year. So I
man.
took it the August before my third year of college, which is a little bit early. The normal time to take it would be the April of the end of your third year of college. Then you apply to medical school during your fourth year of college.
Right.
Well, I took it the August before the third year because I set everything up for it. But that whole summer,
Right.
all I did was another prep course and study for the MCAT. I
Wow.
mean, I'm talking 10 hours a day every day. And I
Wow.
took that test that August, and I had some really good friends that took it too.
Right.
And I remember they scored in the 90th percentile, and I
Oh,
scored right around the 60th percentile. And
wow.
I'm just like, I know I can do better than that. And I was just like, it was, it was just, it's not a failing score.
Right.
And there's people
Right.
that can get into med school with that score,
Sure.
but it's not great.
Uh-huh.
And we're talking about, maybe I can get into a DO school, maybe I can get into a Caribbean medical school. And I'm
Hmm.
just like, and it's a little deflating. I was like, I worked so hard at this,
Right.
because if I didn't take, or if I took the MCAT not timed,
Right.
I scored in the 90 to 90th fifth percentile.
Oh,
I
man.
scored so well on it if I could just take my time.
Right.
But the
Right.
time just killed me, and I would make so many unforced errors.
Right.
I would when I would correct my tests, I'd be
Right.
like, I chose the right answer,
Right.
and I literally filled in the wrong bubble.
Oh, man. Oh,
And
man.
so I had to come up with systems to make sure I didn't fill in the wrong bubble, even when I know what the right bubble is, and I think it's just
Yeah.
crazy. I figured out I was filling in the wrong bubble between
Right.
6 and 8% of the time, which is kind of a lot.
Right. Right. Right.
You know
Right.
and so but I got done taking that MCAT and just kind of deflated. And Camille, she had been saying this a couple of times, but she finally really kind of forced the issue. She said, "You really need to get tested for dyslexia." And I was so against it.
Yeah, yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I was so against it. It was like it, I was just so against it.
Yeah,
And she said,
yeah.
"No, you got to do it." Maybe it was like admitting that I had an issue, or admitting
Yes.
that I needed
Yes.
help. I got tested, and they went through the formal testing of it, and it was like took a long time. It was like an all day kind of thing, and
Right.
I got the results back, and I was super dyslexic. The results show
Wow.
I was super dyslexic. They told me at my college, "Oh, you can get extra time on your tests," which I didn't really need for my
Sure.
classes because none of those were really timed anyways.
Right.
And they said you could get tutors or anything like that. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. I can do that on my own. But
Right.
the MCAT, if I had extra time in the MCAT, I could
Killed
knock
it.
that thing out of the park.
Yeah, for sure.
And so in some ways it was like it was hard for me to do, but I submitted that paperwork, the dyslexia paperwork, to the MCATs
Right.
at the MCAT committee, and it wasn't too long later I got a letter back from them,
Right.
and I can't tell you, I was so embarrassed. They
Mm.
told me based on your prior score that they didn't think I had dyslexia and I didn't qualify for
Wait,
any kind of accommodations.
what? What?
And I was
Really?
just like, I knew it. They literally told me no. And
Wow.
I was just like, I knew I shouldn't do this. And I was so embarrassed. I was, in some ways, I was almost ashamed I did it, which is
Man.
kind of disappointing because,
Yeah. Yeah.
I talk about that now and it's almost the wrong message
Sure.
to get out
Yeah.
because I immediately took that paperwork
Mhm.
and I was so mad. And I wasn't mad at the MCAT committee for telling me no. I was mad that I got tested.
Oh no.
And I
Yes.
wasn't mad at
Yeah.
Camille
Yeah.
for really forcing the issue
Right.
of of um, of getting me tested because she was right. I knew she was right.
Right.
But I was just mad at the whole. I was just frustrated that I had this problem and it was difficult, and
Right.
and so I took that accommodations dyslexia testing paperwork. I literally crumpled it up and threw it away, and
Mm.
never thought about it again in my life until I started thinking about this. I tried to forget about it as quick as possible.
Right, right, right,
But
right.
here's the problem: is I needed to take the MCAT again,
Sure. Yeah.
and I decided I got to do it. But
Right.
my classes weren't set up for it. I had prepared my classes so that I wasn't going to be taking science classes. I was going to be focusing on my major, which I was a business major, and and I was being taking more business classes, and I didn't have time to study for the MCAT, and I wasn't going to be prepared with all the of recently taking all these science classes,
Right.
and I was just like, I got to do it. I mean, I have to crack down and do it.
Yeah.
I have to do it. I've put in this much work. And so, again, between January and April, every single weekend, I, 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 I started studying for the MCAT.
Wow.
All I wanted to do was downhill ski. Oh my gosh, that's all I wanted to do. I just dream of skiing. It's like,
Right.
that's all. I mean, that's my passion is outdoor stuff. And I was
Right.
just literally in a library. I mean, I remember one day in the library in the fall. I mean, it's a Saturday, and I'm just grinding away, studying, and all of a sudden I just hear a roar go up, and I'm just realize it's this football stadium. I could
Oh
hear it from the
man.
library,
Right.
and I'm just like, oh wow, that sounds amazing. And this big football game going on. I remember, it's like, oh yeah, this big team came into town. Just
Right.
thinking, what would that be like?
Man. Oh man. And you hyper focus, man.
I was hyper
Right.
focused,
Yeah.
but you know, I was getting some pretty massive burnout at that point. I
Sure.
mean, there's only so long you can keep that up, and I was keeping it up for way too long.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I was wound up pretty tight, unfortunately.
Sure.
And because again, I had nothing to fall back on. I
Right.
can't, I mean, it was literally poverty to go back home to.
Sure.
And I could have made a good living as, in Alaska, but I just felt like I had to do this. I had no safety net in life. I was
Yeah.
still paying for every dime of college
Right.
with my own money or, scrounging up scholarships where I could get them.
Right.
So it came time to take the MCAT as my last chance because I got to take the MCAT and start applying to medical school. I can't take a year off, after college because what am I going to do? It's my thought is just like,
Yeah.
I don't, there's nobody that's going to support me through that year. I guess I could work, but I got to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I get time to, it gets time to take the MCAT and it's April and it's, um, I'm ready for it. You can't be more prepared than I was. I'd taken so many practice tests. I had my
Right.
strategy down and I had the timing of the test down. It's just, I'd done it so many times. And I
Right.
was looking forward to this just kind of being over.
Sure.
And you get into the MCAT and it's a little bit, your nerves kind of get up because there's hundreds of other students trying to do the same thing.
Yes.
You get a little
Absolutely.
intimidated because you're like, wow, these guys, all these,
Yeah.
you know, guys and girls here, they're pretty smart.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They can psych you out pretty quick. And,
Well,
yeah,
and then you got in it though.
I
And
got in it, and verbal reading is the first thing that you do. It's the hardest section for me. I was like, okay, I got this, and I'm focused on verbal reasoning, and because you got to read a passage
yeah.
and then answer questions about it. It
Oh,
sounds so simple.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not, you can't have any previous, you don't have any previous knowledge about the passage because it's a random passage. And they
Right.
test you on, well, can you read a passage and understand it, internalize it, and answer some pretty detailed questions about what you just
Right.
read?
Yeah.
And so I'm just concentrated on this. I'm going through it. And all of a sudden, I'm kind of interrupting the test and they say 5 minutes left.
Oh man.
And I just went, oh my gosh, my heart just stopped.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had 20% of the test left to take.
Oh my gosh. 5 minutes on the MCAT.
And I got 20% of that section to take still. And I'm just like,
Man.
I wouldn't be able to read the passage. I probably couldn't read one of the passages in 5 minutes. Nonetheless, both of them and and
All the
read all the
reasoning. Yeah.
questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And I thought about Camille. I'm just like, just let her down. Just like, and I, I, I just put my head down, just like almost like panicked.
Sure.
There's nothing you can do. I'm just like, this has to be a dream.
Right.
And I literally just closed my eyes and I said a prayer. I'm just like, Heavenly Father, I have done everything I
Yeah.
could do to prepare for this test.
Right.
Everything. And I would pray every time before I studied, but
Right.
I would never pray to say, help me do good on this test. I would
Yeah.
never do that
Right. Right. Right.
because I felt like that would be just an inappropriate thing to say in a prayer.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
I'm not asking God to help me cheat on my
Yeah.
test.
Sure. Yeah.
He's not going to do that.
Right.
You know, when I would pray, when I was studying, I would say, I want to be able to learn. I want to be able to understand. I want to be able to retain this information. I want to be able to have the spirit with me so I can to help me do that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But now I'm in the MCAT
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I have done everything I can to prepare for this test.
Right.
And I said, Heavenly Father, I need, I need, I need you to show me which bubbles to boil. I'm like literally about to cry just saying it.
Right. Right.
I'm literally about to cry just saying it.
Right. Right.
I need you to show me which bubbles to fill in. I need you to.
Right. Right.
There's no other way around it. There's no other preparation I can put into this test.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I got 4 minutes left now. I got to do this. And I opened my eyes and I'm just literally about to cry in this test. I'm just like,
Right.
I gotta do this. And I'm not, I know the correct testing strategy at that point. It's
Yeah.
you got to pick a line, usually pick C or D, and you fill in the bubbles all the way down so you at least get 20% of them right.
Right.
I didn't do that. I didn't read the passages. I didn't read the questions. I just looked at the bubbles. I looked at the first question of bubbles. I looked at it. I just stared at the bubbles.
Man, oh man.
And until I thought one of them looked right.
Yeah.
I know it's stupid, but I was like, I'd fill it in. I'd look at the next one. I'd fill in. I just did that. And it took me that 4 minutes to fill in the bubbles. And I'm just like, oh, I handed in my test and I'm just put my head on the table. I'm just like, what did I do? Just so defeated. I almost just walked out of the test.
Right.
I
Right.
put in so much preparation for that test. And I was just like, I let Camille down. I mean, just, I almost left.
Right.
And because there's this impossible for me to do better than the 60th percentile I did on the last test,
Right.
and so, but I stuck with it. I mean, I'd stuck with it this long. I was like, I have to, because I knew I couldn't just go back early and
Yeah.
face
Yeah.
Camille. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's it's one of the good things about. I mean, Camille's like the nicest person in the
Yep.
world.
Yep.
she would have
Absolutely.
been she would have been fine with me doing that, but it's just like I couldn't do it.
Right.
I took the rest of the test, and it was hard to take it. I'm telling you, it was. But I was kind of oddly relaxed because I was just like, I got nothing to lose.
Right. 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 Right.
I walked out after 7 hours of doing that. I walked out of that
Oh,
testing center just totally fried. My
right.
eyes glazed over. I'm just like, walk out and, I see Camille's mom picks me up and she's like, "How'd you do?" And I'm just like, can't even hardly talk about it. I'm just like, I did.
Right.
So I told her, "Oh, I did fine. I did good." And it's just the MCAT makes you wait 6 weeks to get your results.
Oh my goodness, that's
Maybe they don't
awful.
wait. Maybe they don't make you wait so long anymore because they do it on computer now, but it was
Right.
paper pencil back then.
Oh,
And I mean, this was what 2000. I forget what year it was. 2003. Oh man. So Camille and I, after the test, we started heading. We head back to Alaska because we've been going back to Alaska every summer to work, and we were heading back to Anchorage. We drove up the Alcan, the Alaska Canadian Highway, and head to Anchorage, and we both had really good jobs. I was a bellman at a downtown hotel, and Camille's did accounting internship, and
oh,
and I started applying to medical schools. Like, I got to forge ahead. I got to get in somewhere.
yeah, yeah.
I was literally looking up medical schools in the Caribbean.
Oh
I'm not
no.
kidding you. It's like I am going to medical school. If I got to go to the Caribbean, fine.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll do it. I might not be able to be a surgeon. That's fine. But I'm going to free medical school. And I literally looked up the medical school in Grenada, or whatever
Right,
how you were
right.
saying.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, I'm going there. I was like the medical school of Ronald Reagan, sent in the troops to rescue the medical students in the 1980s
Right.
from
Oh,
Marxist
that's
coup.
right.
A Marxist coup was going on. He's got to rescue those medical students. I was like, that sounds fun. Send me there. So
Oh
I'm
my
filling out
goodness.
applications, and then 6 weeks goes by, and I get the results back, and I'm just like, oh, I don't even want to look at them. I'm just like, oh crap. It's just like pouring salt in the wound.
Right.
And I'm like, I open up my score and I'm looking at it, reading through it, and I'm just like, when I read fast, it's like written in Greek, and I'm just like, I can't find it. I can't read this. I'm just like,
Sure.
you know. So I slow down. I was like, can't find my score. Can't find my score. I'm looking for it. Then I finally I slow down. There's my score. I'm just like, keep looking at it. I was like, I scored over the 90th percentile in verbal reasoning.
That's great.
And I'm
That's
just like,
great.
I look down and in every section, the physical sciences, the biological sciences, I score in the 90 over the 90th percentile in the entire test. And I'm just
Wow.
like, I'm just like, I just said a prayer just to say thank you, Heavenly Father. I mean, it was just one of those, it's just one of those little miracles in your life that you just are just thankful for,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Wow.
And it's also one of those things in my life where it's like, I don't know how to describe this, but it's just like I, I knew that whatever I became in life was going to be a result of a loving Heavenly Father
Yeah.
helping me along the way.
Right. Right.
Because I shouldn't be able to do this. I really shouldn't. I mean, I really shouldn't. I know that, there's been a bunch of people that have gone to medical school from very difficult circumstances and,
Right.
not having much, but I shouldn't be able to do this, you know?
Man.
And I just scored on the 90th percentile in the MCAT. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I literally went from applying to medical schools in the Caribbean to now I'm applying to some of the top schools in the nation.
Yes.
I ended up not applying to a single school in the Caribbean. I didn't apply to a single DO school. I started applying and during that summer you have to do this national application process, and then
Yeah.
they spit those applications to the medical schools you apply to, and then those medical schools come back, and then you have to fill out whole new applications for all the medical schools
Oh my
that are
goodness.
interested in you, and you got to
Wow.
submit your next round of applications, and then they get back to you to see if they're interested in interviewing you. It's a massive process. It takes forever.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Oh
There,
yeah, so you have to do your
man.
initial, and just filling out the initial application is this massive process with all these essays and all this letters of recommendation takes months to fill out, and then they'll send you back secondary applications, which takes a ton of time to send. But I started getting secondary applications back from some really good medical schools, and I was like, okay, this might
Wow.
happen. And then I started getting some interviews back. And my first interview to this day, I remember I got an interview at Georgetown.
Oh, nice.
That was the first school
Yeah.
that offered me an interview. I'm just like,
That's
that's a
not bad.
legitimate school,
Yeah.
It's in Washington, D.C. I was like, this is awesome.
Right.
I got an interview to Dartmouth, and I got an interview to Ohio State. I got an interview to Cornell. I wasn't going to interview to or apply to Cornell, but Camille made me. Because Camille was going to graduate. We were both going to graduate that spring,
Right.
and this is our last year of college. We're our fourth year,
Right.
and Camille's going to graduate with her master's in accounting, and she wants to work for a big four accounting firm. I mean, that's on
Yes.
her like big goals, and I'm like, okay, we gotta make that happen.
Right.
It's I've got this big goal. All I've been talking about is working towards my big goal, but we've been studying together. We've
Right.
been doing this like it wasn't just me studying and Camille doing something else. We would go to the library every night together. And
Oh
we would
man.
study together. We'd be across from each other, just facing each other. She'd be with her accounting stuff. I would be with my science stuff, grinding it out. And I'm telling you what, if there's somebody who's a harder worker than me, it's Camille.
Oh my goodness.
I'm
That's
not
just
kidding you. She would put in more hours than me. And her favorite spot to study, we even have our favorite spots to study, right? Camille's favorite spot to study was the law library.
Oh,
It's for all the law students. I don't know why she liked studying over there. So I would go over there because that's where she was going to go.
yeah.
And I remember they kick you out. We went home at midnight every night. So she wanted to
Wow.
work for one of the big four accounting firms, which means I had to find a medical school in a big city to go to. And then we have to strategize. She's got to get interviews where I get interviews, and we got to get accepted to the same
Yeah.
spot. So there's a lot of there's a little bit of stress there.
Oh
And
yeah.
so she told me, she's like, I want to interview in New York City. And I'm just like, we're both from Alaska. I don't know about New York City.
Yeah.
I've never been there before. But she got two interviews. She got two interviews in New York City. She got an interview at PricewaterhouseCoopers and
Yeah.
Ernst and Young. And so she's like, you have to apply to at least one place in New York City. So I look through and I say, well, the only place that had student housing was Cornell.
Yes. Yep.
And Cornell's undergraduates in upstate New York, but their medical
Yep.
site is in
Right in
Manhattan,
this.
Upper East
Yep.
Side of Manhattan. They have
Yep.
student housing. I was like, well, I'll play there. But I started researching Cornell, and they had the lowest acceptance rates of any medical school, lower than Harvard.
Oh,
It
I
was
didn't know that.
lower than
Wow.
Harvard. They had 10,000 people that apply for 110 spots.
Oh my goodness.
I know. So I was
Oh
like, all
my
right, I'll apply to
goodness.
Cornell. See how this goes. But I started getting interviews, and Camille started getting interviews, um, and I love the interview process.
Right,
The
right.
MCAT was so hard,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
interviewing, okay, I could shine in interviews. I
Right.
loved it. I thought it was fun. And I would go to this, and you had to fly all across the country. I just kind of loved that. I was like, this is
Right,
fun. And I remember going to my first interviews in Georgetown, and I
right.
was looking around. There's some nervous medical students. And I'm like, I'm not nervous at all. I was like, I should be nervous, and
Right.
I'm not. I don't know why. Maybe again, maybe it's this overinflated like sense of like who you are. I don't know. But I wasn't nervous at all. And I could tell there's some really nervous medical students there. I was like, and I got into these interviews, I'm talking to these doctors, and I found that I liked the process and I
Right,
could talk to them easily and I could look them in the eye.
right.
And, honestly, it's interesting. It's part of that's from my parents.
Mm.
My parents didn't prepare me at all for college, but they
Right,
did a lot to prepare me for life. And my mom is a force of nature. And that, my mom prepared me to be confident in
right,
everything I did. I don't know how she prepared me for that,
right,
but
right,
she did. And so I could go, I felt comfortable interviewing, with these doctors and surgeons at a place like Georgetown. And the process was fun. I could talk about myself, I could talk about my application.
right,
Well, it came time to because it came time to go to New York City. I
right,
had no idea what I'm getting into. Camille had already so Camille goes to New York City. They fly her out there.
right.
They pay for her flights. They
Exactly.
pick her up. They send a driver out to the JFK to pick her up. They put her up in a hotel. They pay for everything. I remember she wore this. She has this red suit that she wore. This is a long time ago. This is
Right.
20 years ago. She had this red suit that she wore. And she told me, she goes, whenever I've never not gotten an offer whenever I wear this, whenever I
This
interview.
power suit, right?
And I'm like, Camille, no kidding. You're like drop dead gorgeous in that suit. It's really tight. You look pretty hot in that suit. How could they not offer you a
Right.
job? And she told me she goes to interviews and she's in Midtown Manhattan, PricewaterhouseCoopers. They interview her there, and she walks. Our last name's Ala, and you know
Right.
what? Camille's like the nicest person in the world. She takes on my name,
Right. Right.
and which is kind of I mean, it's a Finnish name, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's ALA, Allah, it could be a lot of different
Right.
nationalities, right? I have
Exactly.
some people think it's Polynesian, some think
Right.
it's Spanish, or
Yeah.
some people think it's Muslim.
Right.
So Camille walks in. She said her first interview in New York City. She walks in. She's blonde hair, blue eyes, walking in this red power suit that looks hot. And they look at her, and literally the first thing they said, he goes, "You are not who I was expecting."
I love it.
But you know what? She got offered a job at both PricewaterhouseCoopers and
And
Ernst and
Ernst and
Young.
Young. Oh
So my
man.
experience going to New York City was very different. I have to pay for myself to go out there, so I fly a red eye out, and I got to figure out. They just tell you a time to show up. They're like, "Good luck. You got to show up at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. Good luck."
Yeah, exactly.
And
Oh,
so I was like, all right. And luckily, I had a friend who lived on Manhattan, the very north part of Manhattan,
right.
207th Street, still on Manhattan. There's like a little
Yep.
spot in Manhattan that goes way up there.
Yep. Yep.
And she goes, oh, it's easy. You just get off the train. You have to take this bus and go to the A train, get on the A train, take it all the way to the end. Take the A train all the way to the end, and then get off. And she describes how to get to her apartment. I'm like, okay. I told my sister I was doing that because my sister had been living on the East Coast for a while,
Right.
and she was living in Boston. I was like, oh yeah, it's easy. My friend had told me how to do it. My sister's just like, she's so stressed out for me because she knows I have no idea what I'm getting
What are you
into.
getting into?
She knows I have no idea what to do. And those are the days before cell phones. I don't have a cell phone.
Oh no. Yeah.
There's no, I don't, I have a paper map of, I don't even know if I had a paper map of the subway
Right.
system. I've never been on a subway in my life. I've never
Man.
even seen a subway in my life. Literally never. And so I get off the plane, flying a red eye out. I'm just like glazed, like, oh. I luckily make it to the right bus. He takes me to the A train. I get off. I don't know what an A train is. I'm not really sure what to even expect.
Right.
I was like, what's an A train? And so I get to where the A train is, and I'm like, well, there's a problem. There's two A trains.
Oh no.
There's one that goes that way, and there's one that
Yep.
goes that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which one do you get on? I have no
Oh.
idea. It should be obvious, but I'm like, there should be a map that shows which way to go, but
Right.
I couldn't decipher the system, and there's no, and I'm like, I can't even describe to somebody around me where I need to go, you know? And so I'm like, well, I'm just going to randomly choose one, and I can look at the map and see if it's going in the right direction.
Right.
And jump on when
Absolutely.
luckily it's the right direction. I tell you what, I got off that train and on Manhattan,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and I looked up, and because I got off first in the financial district.
Oh, oh yeah.
I was like,
Way
I want to
south.
check this out because I have a little time before I pop up out of the A train in the financial district, and I look around. I'm just like,
It's not
this isn't
Alaska.
planet. This isn't even planet Earth. It's not even planet. I just had nothing to associate it with. I've seen this in movies.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't think the movies were actually real. I grew up watching Law and Order, which is
Right.
place in Manhattan, and
Right.
I'm like, I didn't realize that was real. And so I make my way up there, and my friend, she's like, kind of gives me some tips. But the next day is my interview, right?
Right.
And I'm getting ready the next morning, and my friend is like, she goes, wait, what time's your interview at? She goes, 10 o'clock. She's like, you got to get going. You're going to be late. I was like, what do you mean? It's only like a couple miles away. Owen, it takes an hour and a half to get there. I was like, really? I have no money to take a taxi there. I'm taking the
Right.
subway. And
Right.
I'm on the 207th Street. I got
Yep.
to come down and hit 125th Street and
Yep.
going to come across on a bus.
Yep.
Then hit like the 6th train, the Green Line on the 6th train,
Yep.
and then come down to the Upper East Side up to 70th or 72nd Street.
Right.
And I got to come across where Harlem is. And I'm like, oh crap. So I run and I get out, everything's going a lot slower than I anticipated. I was like, oh, she's right. I'm going to be late. And I get on this 125th Street bus coming across, and
Oh yeah.
I'm just like, oh crap. It stops every 2 freaking feet. I'm like, can you just not stop every 2 feet, please? So I decide I'm in my suit, tie, got my folder, I'm ready to interview. I get off the bus, and this is September, so it's still pretty hot outside.
Yep. It
I
is.
get off that bus, decide to run. Somehow I thought that would be a good idea. I was a cross country runner. I can run, right?
Right.
I start running, and I'm running through Harlem. I kind of realize I got to go through. I didn't really realize Harlem's a real place.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I'm actually running through it. I'm like looking around, kind of surreal kind of thing. Like everybody's staring at me. I still got like a sore thumb. I literally look like I couldn't even grow facial hair. I might grow facial hair now. It took me to till I was 42 years old to grow facial hair. I had no facial hair. I looked like I was 12 years old running through across 125th Street.
Right.
I beat the bus by 30 seconds.
That's awesome.
There was a time where the bus pulled ahead of me. I was like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Why didn't I stay on that stupid bus?
And the bus does that to you in New York. It's just every time, man. Unless there's a parade.
But I got to the interview and I was a little bit late. I'm
Right.
kind of sweaty and I'm like trying to like rub the head. But luckily it didn't matter because they were still trying to get all the students together and
Right.
nobody really even noticed. And I was like, oh good, I'm okay, right? Nobody really kind of noticed because there's like 20 students there and they're gonna interview them all. So I have two interviews at Cornell.
Right.
My first interview is with this PhD doctor, this MD PhD doctor. And my second one was with the dean of admissions, right? So I go into
Right.
my first interview and I don't know how to describe it, but I could not understand a word she was saying. Okay. She was Asian
Right.
and she talked with such a thick accent. I felt so bad. I was like, just tell myself, concentrate, concentrate.
Right.
and I could understand every couple words. And then I had asked her to repeat herself a couple times, and I was like, it's getting rude of me now. And I'm just like, I can't ask her again to repeat herself because I'm like, and I'm just sweating. I was like, I cannot understand the questions. I don't know what to do. I can tell she's getting frustrated with me. I'm like, this interview is not going well. I can tell, she can tell. So I tell myself, okay, this has got to be my strategy. I got to just latch on to any word I can understand.
Right.
And I can't ask her to repeat herself again. It's just too rude.
Right.
And I've got to just answer the question based on any keyword I can pick up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I did. And it still didn't go well. I could tell she was not impressed with any of my questions. Or excuse me, she wasn't impressed with any of my answers.
Answers, yeah.
And so it came time to the last question. And she asked me, luckily I could understand this question. She asked me something along the lines of, what is the most significant thing you have done in your life up to this point? And I was like, okay, I was like,
That's a
this is
good
a
question.
big win because I understood the question. And then I thought, oh crap, I have literally done nothing. I have done nothing in my life that's impressive. And I'm like, I have no athletic achievements. I have no, I haven't even graduated from college. I have no awards. I have done nothing.
Oh
And I'm
man.
just like, I don't know how to answer this question. I know this is our last question. And I
Right.
think, you know what? I just got to be totally honest with her. I didn't say nothing, but
Yeah.
I said, I said, you know what? The most significant thing I've done in my life, and it might not be that much, but it's something I've done together with my wife. You know, I got married basically my first semester of college, or after my first semester. We got married really young. We both have paid our own way through college. We both worked multiple jobs while going to college, and kind of saving money throughout the summer. And we're making it, and we're both scheduled. We're both on track. I'm going to graduate with my bachelor's degree this spring, and
Yeah.
she's going to graduate with her master's degree. And we're both interviewing for jobs, and it's just like, so I guess the most significant thing I've done in my life so far is something I've done together with Camille,
Right.
and that's make it this far through college
Right.
on our own, supporting ourselves the entire way.
Right.
And I was like, that's all I got. Sorry. So sorry. I know it sucks. I've achieved nothing. I could tell she said nothing to me, but I could tell she looked at me for the first time. She looked at me
Yeah.
and with like, huh.
Yep.
I could tell she'd never seen that answer, heard that answer before.
Especially a young
And
guy like you being
I was
married
like,
and that. Yeah.
that's literally all I got. But to me, it's kind of significant because
Yeah.
it's been a struggle. I'll tell you
Yeah.
what. If you had an hour, I could tell you the struggle it's been. I shook her hand, said thank you. I don't even think she said thank you to me. And I was like, okay. And I left. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was so bad. I was like, I'm definitely not coming here. And then my next interview is the dean of admissions, with which I thought went really well. I mean, it was really easy. He was kind of more of my standard interview. I could talk to him. We could talk
Right.
about Alaska. He had all these questions about Alaska. I mean, the MD PhD. She didn't want to talk at all about Alaska. I was like, come on, can't we just ask me something cool about Alaska? I can really nail that answer. But it went really well with the dean of admissions, and I remember sitting at waiting for these interviews with all the other medical students,
Right.
and there was this girl sitting next to me, another student applying to medical school, and
Yeah.
she asked me where I was from. I said Alaska, and she goes, I think she was kind of psyched me up. She goes, "Oh, so you're kind of like that children's book, where there's a country mouse and a city mouse. You're kind of like the country mouse coming to the city, and now you're kind of experiencing the city." And I was just like thinking to myself, "You are so annoying." But I also thought to myself, you're also kind of annoying because you're kind of right. I am kind of that country mouse coming to the city. And I think I remember that book. I'm not quite sure, but I think I remember that book or a book like it. And so, I fly home from that, or I fly back to college, and I told Camille, I was like, we are not going to New York City. That place is crazy. And the worst part about it is
Yeah.
how much it smelled.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know why. I'm so
Oh
sensitive to
yeah.
smells, and I'm from Alaska. It smells beautiful here. It just smells like paradise in Alaska.
Yep. And
And
urine
in New York
and
City, I'm just like, oh, I can't
urine and
handle the
everything.
intensity of these smells. You get these like amazing aroma from some restaurant, and then immediately you get a whiff of this smog that
Yeah.
bubbles out of the concrete. Like, oh, what was that? And then you get the whiff of some trash, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, what was
Yeah.
that? And then you get some exhaust, and then you
Oh
get
yeah.
this amazing restaurant smell, and you're like,
Yeah.
I can't handle this. It's like,
So funny.
Camille, we cannot go to medical school here. So a couple months go by, and Camille gets a job offer. In fact, she gets two job offers,
Right.
both in New York City. And so, luckily I had been accepted to a couple medical schools at this point.
Right. Right.
I was super excited. I got an acceptance to Georgetown. I got an
Oh
acceptance
man.
at Ohio State. I got an acceptance at
Wow.
University of Utah. I got an acceptance at Dartmouth. And I'm just like, we got
Wow.
options now.
Wow.
And I was like, this is cool, Camille. Camille had some interviews. She had an interview in Columbus, Ohio, and she had an interview in Salt Lake City. And I was in, but she had this job offer in two job offers. She got a job offer from Price Waterhouse Coopers and
Yep.
Ernst and Young
Yep.
in New York City. But one of the job offers was significantly more. The PricewaterhouseCoopers job offers was for $20,000 more. Gave her a deadline to accept of December 31st. The
And
problem is Cornell doesn't even give out their first acceptance letter until March 1st.
oh, you're kidding me.
They do all of their interviews before they give out their first acceptance letter. And then they
Oh,
all meet as a committee and I start
wow.
sending out an acceptance letter. So she has a deadline of December 31st to accept this job, and they don't even send out. And I told Camille, I was like, Camille, they have 10,000 people that apply to this medical school. I was like, we
Gosh.
can't go here. We got some other options. We got to choose some of these other places. And she goes,
Right.
no, I think we should go to New York City. I don't know what to tell you because me getting in there is probably not going to happen. I'll be honest. I was like, I don't know if I told her about that interview. I was like, maybe I should tell her about that interview. It didn't go well. Maybe that last question went okay, but no, it didn't go well. So this is what Camille tells me. She goes, this is what you got to do. Write the dean of admissions and tell him about my job offer and ask for an early acceptance. Come on.
Awesome.
I'm not going to do that. And she goes, no, you got to do that. Just tell him about my job offer, ask for an early acceptance. I mean, the worst that they can do is say no. And I was like,
Right.
so I did it, and I wrote this letter. I was like, look, I'm not trying to push through my application, but my wife has a job offer. And there's deadline is December 31st. I even put in the letter, like the cover letter to Camille's job offer, look, just to show them it's
It wasn't fake.
legitimate.
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
faking this. It's a real job offer for my wife. If we could both get it, in the same city, we could make this happen. Otherwise, it's not even a possibility. I mean, I gotta, I can't go here.
Right.
So, and this was in the beginning of December.
Right.
And I'm telling you what, within 2 weeks, I got a letter back, snail mail, like an actual letter in the mail back from Cornell. And I was like, oh, interesting. I opened it up. It's literally an acceptance letter to Cornell Medical School
Oh my goodness gracious, man. That's awesome.
with a handwritten note on it from the dean of admissions. Tell your wife congratulations on her job.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
And I'm just like, I think Camille got me into Cornell Medical School.
Well, the funny thing is, to me, Camille, you would never think that she would be that boom,
I
right? She's
know.
the nicest person in the world, but that direct is what I was trying
She's
to
the
use.
nicest, quietest person in the world.
Right,
And we're both kind of quiet people, and I'm just
right.
and she's super nice. I have never heard her say a bad word about a person in my life.
That is
I've
amazing.
never heard it just that kind of stuff doesn't cross her mind.
Right.
But the thing about Camille, even though she's like super nice, she's actually really competitive, like down underneath it. She's got a competitive spirit to her, so which I like because I think it's kind of
Right.
cool.
Right.
But but she's not afraid of things either. Like
Right.
it's not that I'm afraid of things, but I have more. In some ways, it's harder for me to put myself out. Where she is just. This is what it is about myself, right? I hate being turned down. I
Mm,
hate being told no.
Sure.
And I would almost rather not do something than they told no. And
Right.
that's why I didn't want to do it. She's like, it doesn't matter if they say no, you know?
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, I know, but it's so painful. But it shouldn't be, right?
I'm glad that she did that
Yeah.
because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do this thing right here. Right?
Yeah, it's true, and so that was it, I mean, going to medical school, I mean, from Alaska, I mean, it was a tough adjustment living in New
Sure.
York City.
Right.
And there's the first couple of months where I thought, oh, I don't know if I can handle this. I was like, I don't know, just the noises, it's
Yes.
and the smells, like I said, the noises, just like I was just like on edge and stressed out for a couple months.
Right.
There's something interesting happened after a couple of months of living in New York City, and what happened was so much about life is your mindset.
Yes, it is.
It's
Totally.
so much about your mindset. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like you can do almost anything. Yeah, I don't know, maybe you can do anything if your mindset is right.
Right.
So I changed my mindset about New York City. I view New York City as a big wilderness.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm good in the wilderness. I
Oh
grew
yeah.
up in the wilderness.
Yes.
Changed my mindset. It's a big wilderness, and there's all these slot canyons with these big buildings, and you're exploring this just
Yeah.
wilderness, and there's all these wild animals everywhere. Once I viewed it as that, I started really loving it. I started really excelling in New York City,
Yeah.
and I got to the point where, man, I really knew that city well,
Right. Right. Right.
and you know, I look back at it now and I think, what are the lessons I learned from all that? A couple of them is that it's just that single-minded focus.
Hmm.
And I don't know why I had it for medical school, but partly was I felt like I had no other option.
That's an
I
interesting
felt like
feeling.
I legitimately had no other option. And I get it. I mean, I could have done a lot of other careers. I understood that very clearly. In my mind, I felt like I had no other option. I had to do this. And honestly, having some financial insecurity behind me I was a kind of a big fire, like kind of that's a big fire under you to really keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had people tell me in medical school, oh, you should never go into medicine for the money. And I'd
Mm.
look at them like, you've never been without money, have you? And I was
Right.
like, I get your point. You shouldn't become a surgeon or you shouldn't go into medicine only for medical, just for monetary reasons
Yes.
I get that. That is true.
Yes.
The bottom line is I have to make a living.
Yes.
We all
Absolutely.
have to make a living. And if I don't have I don't have a trust fund back here that means I could just be a volunteer person the rest of my life. I have to make a living. But first things first is I have to go into medicine to make money because I have to live and I have to support my family. But there's a lot of other reasons why I did it. There are a lot of other reasons. And one of the reasons was I knew I would be good at being a surgeon. It was so difficult for me to pass the MCAT. But
Mm.
once I got into my surgical training, everything changes. It's a whole different skill set. And man, when I get into the operating room, I really thought this and knew this. I didn't know it about myself, but I really thought this was going to be how it was.
Right.
And I was right about it. Is I am so at home in the operating room. It feels so natural.
Right.
And there's nothing about dyslexia that is a hindrance. It's honestly, it's a superpower. It
Wow.
literally is. How
Wow.
I can see through things, how I can take a holistic view, how I picture things in my mind, how I can see three-dimensional in my mind, the way
Wow.
I look at and I learn anatomy. It's learning things step by step was so difficult, or like learning like little like disjointed facts. I couldn't do that. I had to see
Yeah.
the whole picture. But once I understood the whole picture of a surgery, it
Yeah.
became like a story to me. And that's
Wow.
what people with dyslexia, they understand life as a story. I understand surgery as a story. When I talk about anatomy, I don't
Yeah.
have to memorize it because it's a story to me. It makes sense. It's like I go through, I can see and feel all the little details. And
Ah.
it makes it so easy. I can see myself as a surgeon now. Now I'm 12 years after fellowship and residency. I'm
Right.
12 years into practice. And,
Wow.
I can see what I'm doing as a surgeon now, kind of mid practice. And I am so thankful. I am so thankful that I passed the MCAT or,
Yeah.
scored well in the MCAT. I'm so thankful for the blessings I received
Oh
by
yeah.
by
Yeah.
doing that. And it's just like, I know for a fact I could not have done that with how bad the dyslexia was
Right.
without help from a loving Heavenly Father. It's just like, I have to understand that. And, part of being a surgeon is be able to but use that, the gift of being able to get past that test to be able to do something more than just for myself.
And you've done so much. Matter of fact, it blows my mind everything that you are doing because it's not even just that. It was an impetus for other things that you've done. I mean, I don't think a lot of people knew that you had a crumble in Alaska, and then the photos on the wall, world class. Well, I view it as world class videographer and photographer, man. And it's
Yeah.
amazing how all of these things kind of fed off each other, and it continues to expand you because you didn't listen to. Oh, I've got dyslexia. You've never used that as an excuse. And that's why it was so fascinating to learn all of this about you because the amount of work, the amount of just pure grit, man,
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to get this story, man. It's inspiring. I
No.
hope all your boys understand that too, man.
There's this one picture over here on my shoulder.
Right.
It's drawings or sketches from Leonardo da Vinci.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
his anatomy sketches. I love anatomy, man. It's like my entire adult life is like anatomy, right? I love it. And so, he was, so long ago back in the Renaissance time, but
Yeah.
he had dyslexia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
kind of how he thought through things is like I can kind of identify with like the things he was interested in and how he did things and how he thought through anatomy and so I love looking at the details of some of his sketches and I can even tell where he made some mistakes in them.
That's great.
No, there's this one because I'm an upper extremity surgeon. There's one where he does the sketches of all the anatomy of the
Right.
tendons, and I
Right.
can tell he used two different cadaveric specimens because of how he elevated them. And then I could tell he elevated one, drew the picture, took another cadaveric specimen, drew it because I could see the same anatomy twice. And
Only a trained doctor can see that. That's awesome,
I was like, I
man.
see what you're doing, Leonardo.
Oh my goodness. That is good
Uh,
humor. Now, there's so many people that I know benefit from this. It just shows what's possible. It's been amazing to hear this story, and I can't thank you enough for being vulnerable enough to share that. And really getting down in the details because it really helps to see the struggle and what it takes to overcome that struggle and that struggle is okay. And that's what I've appreciated. I've always looked at you and your brother down in Arizona. I only see the successful side. I've never seen that backstory. And just seeing that, I go, I get it. So thank you. Thank you
No, I
very much.
appreciate it. No, I really appreciate it. And one thing, this last thing that I realized from people is everybody's got this backstory of struggle,
Yes.
and it's like you see people and you kind of see their success or see whatever. And I really think like literally every single person around you has this backstory of struggle
Yeah.
and suffering that you'll probably never know.